Joined in the studio today by none other than Madeleine Eliza. Thank you so much for being here,
Thank
Maddie.
you for having me, Chrystal. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm so grateful. And I was multitasking there, getting the music up, getting this other parts working. And I want to begin that we are both on a Rockwall country, and we want to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and all Torres Strait Islanders. We're on the sacred lands of the Rockwall people of the Bundjalung Nation. So we pay our respects to them, and we're so grateful to be here with you today. This is going to be a very interesting conversation. And Maddie is joining us from Byron Bay as well. She is a former C-level executive in male-dominated industries. She's now a leadership mentor, tantric embodiment teacher, and a podcaster. She blends strategy with soul, guiding women to reclaim their radiance, boundaries, and unapologetic power through embodiment, deep self-worth, and magnetic presence. From the boardroom to soul-led entrepreneurship, Maddie's journey is one of courage, creativity, and coming home to herself. And I am so excited to get into this conversation with you, Maddie.
Thank you, Chrystal. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm just really excited to be here with you today.
Me too. I'm, oops, I'm just going to work on this. So as this is a running experiment, as you know, there we go. Now I can see us both on my screen.
Woohoo!
We're here together. Yes, 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 yes. And today we really came together to talk about the power of being magnetic and how one can be magnetic, as well as your personal journey towards magnetism. And when we speak about being magnetic, we're really talking about the energy that's already within us. It's not something we have to go outside to get. So if you're listening now, there's no fancy things you have to go and get. You don't have to join a class. You have everything you need right now. And in this conversation, we're going to get to learn more about how each of us as women can become even more magnetic and understand this journey towards self-worth by hearing Maddie's incredibly brave story. So I can't wait for us to drop into that.
Thank you, Chrystal. Yeah, there's so much to unpack here. I'm so excited to be here pulling all these topics apart with you.
And you spent a lot of time in your career working in a corporate field. That's somewhere when you say C-level, I wonder if you could tell us, for those people who are listening, what C-level is, because I think that's an important place for us to start to understand about your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So C-level is kind of executive level leadership. So to tell you a little bit about my story, you mentioned creativity in your intro, Chrystal, and that's been such a big theme for me and something that's really alive at the moment. And it's not something we often think of as being part of the business world, but my career path has been in the land of startups where creativity is definitely an asset when you're constantly problem solving and trying to pull rabbits out of hats. So I actually studied a whole bunch of different creative disciplines. I went to art school, I studied acting, I did a degree in creative writing, and then I came out of uni and walked straight into a job as a copywriter at Groupon when it first launched in Sydney. And I was employee 30 something. And within like 8 weeks, there were about 200 people in the office. Like it was a wild kind of rapid growth journey. And I think I got hooked and bitten by the startup bug in those early experiences there. And then moving to Byron Bay shortly after that, I was a very early stage employee at Tripadil, which for a couple of years was the fastest growing company in Australia. We grew from $500,000 to 2 million to 20 million to 80 million in revenue in 3 years. And I was running operations, and that I then had a role leading growth and strategy, and eventually was chief product officer in that C-level, where all my peers were men 15 to 20 years my senior. So my kind of thoughts on feminine leadership really started to emerge as a result of my own experience being in that level of leadership during that time. And I kind of found my niche there, working very closely alongside founders and entrepreneurs who are usually very big picture, visionary kind of characters. And I discovered this book actually by Gino Wickman called Rocket Fuel, which describes the two types of leadership needed for a high growth organization. And it's the visionary and the integrator. And it was the first time I had a language for what it is that I do. I was like, oh, I'm an integrator. I'm the person who takes this huge, big picture, blue sky vision and builds it into a tangible pathway for delivery, and maps out the projects and engages the team and keeps the team engaged and tries to stop them from leaving when things are so stressful and intense that everybody feels like they can't bear it anymore. That's been a big part of my journey. And then I continued in roles like that, working alongside founders as chief operating officer or general manager in those types of leadership roles with tech companies, with e-commerce brands, and also with online education businesses. So I've worked across different sectors, but usually in that role working closely alongside founders or CEOs to support the birthing of whatever that vision might be.
Wow, my goodness, that's so incredible. That's so big. That's I think anybody who is listening here right now, I just want to welcome our listeners too and say thank you so much for tuning in. Wherever you're tuning in, if you're joining us live, please feel free to drop comments or questions for Maddie here, and we can feed them through. Thank you so much for being back with us today. This podcast, as you can hear, is really about spotlighting women and the great work that women are doing in the world and elevating one another as we rise into greatness. And hearing a little bit about your backstory, Maddie, is so encouraging because where you are now in your soul-led entrepreneurship, you've really had a solid foundation in the core corporate world, working at such a high level. These are companies that if you're living here in Australia, you know about, and I imagine overseas you will too. These are massive companies. Groupon is, it must be a transnational company, something like that, integrated with other companies that are doing similar things. Tripadeal, this is a big travel company. Just to give context for these companies that people might be wondering what that is. And I share that with you today because we are starting here where Maddie has come from so that we can start to understand the depth of where she is now and what's happening in her life and why this is so exciting for you and I as listeners and people in the world to have a woman in the world who's coming from these spaces of masculine power and the paradigm of power really, and sharing out knowledge and ways to transform ourselves and these male dominated spaces so that we can prosper and thrive and be ourselves in them.
Yeah, love that, Chrystal. Absolutely. I feel so passionate about kind of gifting other women with the tools I wish I had 10 or 15 years ago, because it would have been so much easier and less draining and avoided many pitfalls of burnout and, all the things we go through along the way. So yeah, it's great to be here talking about this with you.
Yeah, and I'm a listener of Maddie's podcast. I'll just reframe this here. Yeah, Maddie has an amazing podcast called The Madeleine Eliza Show. I'm referring to her as Maddie because it's a more intimate name, but Madeleine Eliza Show, you have to go check her out. She's just on fire and has so much to share along female and feminine leadership. And that's really what this conversation is about today, too. About leadership, not only in the boardroom and in our businesses, but self-leadership as well, bringing ourselves, our full selves, as you say, Maddie, bringing our whole selves to the picture of who we are and what we're giving. And you started in this space of C-level entrepreneurship really young. You said by your 30s, you were already working in boardrooms and making big transactions with men in the business world. And what is, from this space, you're moving into a different space, but take us on a journey of what happened for you and why you're not still working in that space.
Yeah, I think the first thing, the turning point for me was becoming a mother, and which really redefined my relationship with my body. I feel like it got me into right relationship with my body. Like, wow, look at the power that I have in me. This is incredible. Why have I been giving myself such a hard time? And it also redefined my relationship with work, because I know you know this path too, Chrystal, and any other mamas listening. When you've been working 70, 80, 100-hour weeks, hammer and tongs, building something, and then you have a baby, you can't do it anymore. Like you just, well, I don't believe that. For me, I couldn't keep running at the same pace that I was running. So I had to renegotiate how I fit the pieces of my life together. And I think the way that I was navigating power, because that's what we're talking about, and even saying that word, it's like, ooh, why is she talking about power? Like we shouldn't talk about that. But no, I really think we need to talk about it. And I am all about women embodying their own personal power. And it's not about exerting power over other people, but if you want to wield your power most effectively in the world, have the biggest, brightest impact that you can, positively influence the lives of other people around you and the planet and whatever it is that you want to do, you need to be able to wield your own power. Like we need to talk about power. So for me, in my late 20s, early 30s, in those very male-dominated spaces, I was coming from a place where I think a lot of, especially young women, come from, where we've grown up and we've learnt to prioritize fitting in, belonging to the tribe. The idea of being outcast or rejected or otherwise cast out of the tribe is like the worst possible thing that can happen. And so we compromise on our own truth. We don't stand fully in our own power because we worry about upsetting other people. It's your classic kind of people-pleasing good girl. We learn to be compliant. Like compliance comes above sovereignty often for a lot of us. And that was certainly my experience. And I don't think we as a society do a particularly good job of initiating our girls and young women into their own power, like into the fullness of their power. So, and I'll share my experience. I think it may be something that's quite commonly experienced too. We've come from this, and this is a result of patriarchy, right? Where we have to shrink and comply and fit in and belong. And so then we enter the workforce and we want to climb the ladder and we want to have an impact. And in my case, I was really excited about the projects I was working on. I was excited about the teams that I was building and supporting. And the way that we learn to wield power is through the tools that we've learned via feminism over the last, few decades, which I believe is still speaking a very masculine language of power. And for me, it was all about putting your shoulders back. You got to toughen up, and you're going into boardrooms with serious alpha male energy, like to hold your own in there when you're actually not rock solid inside yourself because you're still shrouded in these patterns of compliance. And often there's a lot of shame there around different aspects of our inner self, which keeps us small. For me, the only solution at that point in my life was to kind of put on this false suit of masculine armor and try and join the dick swinging contest, basically. So excuse my language. I know this is live, so you can't edit that out. But often that's what those workspaces feel like. And it feels like you've got to muscle up and you've got to lean in, right? To quote this very famous book by Sheryl Sandberg. And what I found, and what I believe is a common result of that pattern, is that just leads you to burnout and exhaustion because you're not coming from a grounded, embodied, integral place of power within yourself. It's a facade that's masking a hollowness. And for me, I became a mother, which kind of renegotiated a lot of things for me personally and professionally. And I started to realize that this way of operating was unsustainable. And I became interested in, and at the same time, my marriage, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into in this particular answer,
babe,
but
go.
it's all part of the same
it all.
story.
We're here for the story.
Yeah, well, on a personal level, I became a mother. I've got 2 children, they're born a couple of years apart, and my marriage kind of catastrophically disintegrated when my children were very young. And I won't go into the details of that story here because I don't think it particularly serves anyone for me to sit in that story. But in terms of what I've learned from that and what I've gleaned from that, it really forced me to reckon with myself, and it forced me to look at these, like lift those dark, scary, shadowy rocks inside myself that I'd been pushing down, that I knew I was choosing not to look at before. I had to come face to face with my own darkness, and it was a real journey of descent and a reckoning. And through that, I became interested in spiritual traditions like Tantra, which I've studied. And Tantra is all about, everyone thinks it's all about sex. Actually, the sacred sexuality teachings only make up 5% of the teachings in classical Tantra, which is what I studied. There's all sorts of like Tantra parties around Byron Bay, which are a different experience altogether, but that's not the lineage that I have studied. It's more about this journey of the self, actually, and of recognizing the divine within the self, and we work into the darkness in order to, it's like descend into the darkness in order to ascend into the light. And central to the teachings of Tantra is this concept of Shiva and Shakti, the masculine and the feminine, which is similar to the concept of yin and yang, which comes from the Taoist traditions in China. So I always find it interesting, these points of convergence where they're different lines of thought, but they've arrived at the same conclusion, which is that we have these polarized energies within ourselves as individuals, and then also in relation with the other. And I am coming around to answering your question on not taking the long road. How this relates to my journey with leadership is that I realized that in those years of hustling alongside masculine leadership teams, I was trying to speak a male language of power that I just don't have the right equipment. Like I don't have the right physical, energetic equipment to be speaking that language. I'm always going to lose. And I think that's where feminism in its current status lets us down. Like we're trying to compete on a stacked field. We're never going to win. Like we can't beat men at their own game. So then I think what we're doing a lot of the time is, because we can't possibly beat men at their own game, where we're at now is we're actually asking men to be less. And I think that's really problematic. And a lot of my work, because of my own journey, personally, that journey of descent with the end of my marriage I spoke about, where I really had to face my own darkness and take radical personal responsibility. I'm interested in what space is there for each of us to take up, regardless of what's happening externally. Like we can clamour out externally for system change. For sure, structural change needs to happen to empower women and to enable further equality. But there's also space within each of us to take up more space, to more fully claim our power. And what I get excited about when we talk about feminine leadership is redefining what that language of power is altogether. Because when you do this work of breaking through the blocks and descending into the darkness and really reckoning with yourself, you land in an experience of your own embodied power and your own divinity as a woman that no alpha male, no matter how dominating and powerful he is, can possibly compete with, because you are speaking a different language of power. So it just kind of shifts the whole energy where it's like, do your worst, because I'm going to hold my own now. And for me, that's, and to talk about magnetism, I feel like that's kind of, it's not like I set out going, oh my God, if only I was more in my magnetic power, I'd be able to navigate this more easily. But when we follow this path and really reclaim this feminine power that's in each of our bodies already, it's not external. We just got to like peel off the layers to get back to it. That magnetism is a natural byproduct of that. And it changes the way that we relate to others. It changes the way that we lead and the way that we negotiate power, particularly with men. I think that's when we're talking about the corporate world, which is often still dominated by this like chest beating alpha male. And I know that's a stereotype and I know things are changing, but for a lot of women, that's still the lived experience that we're coming up against every day. There's a lot of that energy in the upper echelons of the corporate world. So having these tools, and it has been a spiritual path for me, that it's like spiritual and embodiment, that like the upward and the downward movement of grounding into the body and elevating up into these higher kind of experiences of self. It just gives us a whole different tool set and a whole different language to navigate power, which is a lot more, it was a lot less exhausting than how I used to go about it, which was to put on that suit of armor without dealing with any of the leaky disempowered stuff inside myself. I'm going to leave it there. That was a very long answer to your question.
Wow. A thorough answer. Let's say thorough. And needed as well. Because I hear you say you've been on this journey to explore power in marital relationships. You've been on this journey exploring power in work relationships. And not only do relationships and money come together all the time, so does wealth and the generation, the generating of wealth in business. So having all of these come together in climactic ways in the boardroom, in the bedroom, you know, in the marital space when things break down, it's not easy. So what you've shared with me helps me understand that you have explored deeply the facets of female and male in particular relationship and the power paradigms at play between them. And because of that, you've come out with new tools through your own investigation of saying, okay, I've tried that. I've tried putting on the suit of armor. I tried muscling up. I tried, you know, hustling. And I realized it didn't work. And I realized it so much that I even got burned in certain situations. And I fell down and I had to get myself back up. And here I am now, retooled with what I had underneath it all, is what I'm hearing too. When you're talking about, and we can move into this space even more boldly now, understanding where you've come from and what you're doing with embodiment, because you've explored these spaces yourself. It's not just observations, which are also important and necessary, and hypothesis. You've been in the testing grounds, in the hardest testing grounds, in the battlefield. You've been in the battlefield of life, and you've come back as a shiro to share your knowledge and say, look, sisters, you know, look, women, there's another way. And looking at you, you're so soft and radiant and beautiful. And yet you've come through massive storms, and the things that you're honing are very wild, untamed, unclaimed spaces as well. So you are, for people who are tuning in, I just really want to encourage everybody who is tuning in here, listening, to also head over to YouTube, because you're going to get to see Maddie and I talking in our spaces, and you get to just see how much she's radiating and feel that as well. And I know you can feel it through the listening, but I just want to remind you and encourage you there, because it is such an amazing experience to be able to have both and listen and watch. And then you can head over to herbravestorypodcast.com and also hear the show notes, see the show notes. If you're a reader, you can do that. And that's where you're going to learn more about Maddie as well. There'll be links to her work, and she's going to share more about that as we move along. I just wanted to share that with you and remind you. I have a question. When you're talking about this space that you were in, like you were trying to kind of muscle it up and realize you couldn't do it, and then you realize through more practice and more time, more experience, that wasn't the way. What are some of the things that you tried and it didn't work, and what did you do differently? Just so that people can kind of get a concept and understand the power play we're talking about.
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you, Chrystal. I think in those environments, there's needing to have all the answers all the time, and needing to be really assertive with presenting the answers quickly and first. And actually, I think good leadership is being able to ask good questions and to say, I don't know. And that maybe just comes with age and experience as well. But another piece of that is the way that we lead others, the way that we lead teams. Part of that armoring up is like keeping things very professional all the time, and needing to almost put on a suit that says, I'm the leader and I'm the boss and you better respect me. And again, this might be age and experience, but I think for me it's also just being a lot more grounded in my own body and having this inner confidence that, I throw emojis out like they're going out of fashion with teams that I work with now, and I don't for a second think, oh my God, what if they think I'm unprofessional? No, I know that if I build rapport and make people feel comfortable, I'm going to build a better relationship, and I'm going to have a better understanding of where they're at and what's troubling them, and what's causing them stress, and on all levels within their role within the business. And that's an advantage as a leader, to have that level of rapport and closeness. So I think the more confident you are in yourself, the less you need to put on a pretend suit of professionalism. That's definitely something that's shifted. I think I also felt in that environment, I'm a very creative person. Like I'm more creative than analytical, I would say. And I can swing both ways. And obviously I've been in operational leadership roles. I have to wear that analysis hat. But I think the strength of my success career-wise has been in my ability to think laterally and creatively problem solve and engage people, paint the vision, engage the team, and get them over the line. But in those days of being in very male-dominated environments, which were more linear, it's a very cognitive linear to stereotype masculinity or masculine energy. I felt ashamed that I didn't have a business degree. I felt like, who am I? I've just been to art school and studied creative. Like, I'm a poet. What the fuck am I doing? Sorry, swearing live. What am I doing leading this team of 50 people and running these massive budgets and la, 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 la. Like, I had this massive imposter syndrome, which I know is a very common experience. But now I can see that actually I feel just more it's coming to terms with who you are as well, and just going, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I know that my creativity is an asset, and it's not something that I need to try and hide or explain away. It's actually a real advantage when it's used correctly. So yeah, there are a couple of examples. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, great examples. I love that. I love this where you're going with it too. And because this is her brave story and this seems like a right spot to ask this question, what do you feel is the bravest decision that you've had to make in order to be on the path that you're on now?
Thinking very carefully about how to word this, knowing that this is live. I apologize for my language use.
Please don't apologize. And I'm going to encourage anybody who's listening right now to think about that too. Because these stories are important for all of us.
It's such a powerful question. I shared a very personal piece of, which actually took a great deal of courage for me to even share. I shared a piece of my story 2 weeks ago that I didn't think I'd ever share publicly. And it's a story of the loss of my innocence, which is part of that journey of descent around the end of my marriage. And the whole story is on my LinkedIn and Instagram and wherever anyone wants to read it. But basically, I was in a dynamic with a man who I trusted, who abused the power that he had over me, and which caused me like the destruction of the life that I'd built, basically. And in the aftermath of that situation, it's complex, and this is why I get so interested in these male-female dynamics and why it's so central to my work. And I can see now, I started my podcast a year ago, and I've been unraveling these themes, I think, to get to this point of actually sharing, hey, this is what happened to me. There was a forked road in front of me where I could have clung to victimhood because he did wrong by me and he gravely harmed me and caused massive destruction in my life. He did the wrong thing. And I tried to exit that dynamic before anything happened, by the way. I think that's a really important piece. I tried to get out of it and he pulled me back in. There was a forked road and I could have clung to victimhood, but I didn't. Instead, I sat in the fire and in so much shame. Like, that's the lifting of the rocks I'm talking about. Like, what's mine to own here? And what can I be responsible for? And why was I vulnerable in this situation? And why did I say yes to this? Because I said yes, like multiple times along that path. There were multiple points where I could have said no, and I said yes instead. Why? Why did I do that? And it's been the most profound journey of self discovery and empowerment that I've had in my life. But it has taken a lot of courage, and it's been a lot of years in the kind of the underworld. I feel like I've been in the underworld, in the darkness, grappling with this and trying to rebuild my life. And yeah, but I do think that was a brave thing to do, because I could have wrapped myself in victimhood. And that's why I speak so passionately about personal responsibility as a core part of empowerment for women, because so much of the rhetoric that we see around feminism and female empowerment is just throwing rocks outwards and complaining about men and complaining about the status quo. And I'm not saying change doesn't need to happen, but I don't believe that men are the problem as individuals, you know. And I also think that if we turn our attention inwards to all those murky, yucky places inside that we really don't want to look at, if we're brave enough to do that as a foundational, like, that's the first step, in my opinion. It's like, if I do that first, I excavate space for myself. I unblock this kind of channel of light that's in me that I've got dammed with all this crunchy, yucky stuff inside. If I open that up first, then I can step out and go, okay, what's the impact that I want to have in the broader world? What structural change do I want to impact? Like, then turn your attention outwards. But I think it's not very empowering to be throwing rocks outwards when we haven't done that inner work first. And I know that can be very triggering, because I know I'm not for a second saying that everything's fine and women should just be happy with the status quo. No. But I think if we take that brave step of really looking inside of ourselves at the places we don't want to look and reckoning with ourselves, we have a lot more power and a lot more agency to go forth and do whatever it is that we feel called to do in the world.
So powerful. This holding of space for yourself so that you can unpack what's inside and make healthier decisions, have clearer insights into who you truly are before the conversation about who other people are or aren't is something that I'm gathering from what you're saying too. And I want to thank you for sharing such a deeply personal story here on Her Brave Story. This really is a safe and inclusive space for people to share stories. And the stories that we share here are ours to share. I want to just bring us back to that too. This is Maddie's story. This is her speaking her truth too. And I want to celebrate women who are doing this, who are taking these incredibly brave steps, as you say in your own words, was to dredge the river. You know, just like you explained there, to clear the path, to open up the light, you have to dredge the river. And sometimes that's dirty work, man. It's hard work. And as you say, it's soul-led work. It's the work of the soul to undo old patterns, to reclaim our right to happiness and bliss and power and just feeling good in our own bodies again.
Yeah, it's beautifully said, Chrystal. And I just so love the work that you're doing here, Her Brave Story. Like, I think for women, often we bury the deepest, and I'm not saying, you know, not everything's for public consumption, absolutely, but owning and I've shared my story in a way that is considered and, you know, but owning the pieces of our story that are central to who we are, that have shaped us, that have been, and it's, yeah, dirty work, and it can be slow as well. Like, can take years. Like,
Sure.
God, aren't I done with this yet? No, I'm still got a few layers to go. But to get to the other side, and every woman's had her version of
Yes, so
this
true.
period in the underworld, right? And
Yeah.
actually, I think the most interesting people are the ones who have. Like, if you haven't really spent some time in the dark,
Mm.
um, you don't have access to these layers of depth that you do if you've done this dirty dredging the river work. So yeah, I really celebrate what you're doing with this podcast. I just think it's so powerful to create a space for women to share their stories.
Thank you. And it's only possible through women like yourself and through the women listening and to the people listening. Because I started it thinking it would only be women. And then I realized, no, men need this too. They may not be the stars of the show, but they can listen. And
Yeah.
I just trust that there are some men listening who are learning new things and who are saying, wow, I didn't think about it like that,
Mm,
or I wish I could open up like that.
mm,
Or, wow, isn't it interesting that I could have totally missed everything and what she said just captured it. I think women have a different way of communicating too. And in my experience, we need one another to
mm.
unpack these big things and to celebrate one another and to share them. And as you said, to bring something to the light is not easy work. There are reasons that it's been behind for a while, that it's been covered up. It's kept you safe. It's you people. I want to encourage anyone who's listening right now and speak to this, is that if something touches your heart at any point and you're not ready to share that story yet, that's okay
Mm.
too. That things come at the right time, and there can be layers, as you said, Maddie. It can be a journey of just like gentle layers peeling back, and then suddenly there it is. It's all there, and you can work with it, but you're still working with your story. That's really what I want to say. Is you're still working with your story, even if you're not speaking it out loud yet. That you're still working with it. You can still work with it, even in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just speaking it to one or two trusted people can
Mm.
be really profoundly healing, especially if it's a story that is, I'm picturing like a rosebud. It's like just
Mm.
wrapped up in so many layers of shame, which was my
Mm.
experience. And I think often the things we buried are buried because they're attached to shame,
Yeah.
and it really does fester in the dark. So even if you're not ready to like post it on Instagram for everyone to see, which is what I did 2 weeks ago, um, maybe just if there's something that, and I'm just sharing this because I know what it feels like to be in that space of darkness and despair where you
Yeah.
feel so bitterly alone.
Mm.
And sometimes you'll be surprised by how much kindness and
Mm.
compassion people might meet you with if you have the courage to share.
Oh, that's so true. And this is actually a really lovely spot for me to share that if you are wanting something like this, I do run a circle. It's an online circle, and you can drop in. It's called Her Brave Circle. It's on my website, herbravestorypodcast.com. And it's not about fixing or trying to make everything better. It's just really about listening. And if you feel called, then please hop over there and check it out, and or look for a circle in your area, because it can be a powerful way for women to come together and just hold space for one another as we do share these deeper stories and these deeper layers out into the world and air them out. And because of your courage and because of the things that you've done, you've also become even more magnetic. And you talk about this in your podcast. And there's one recently that I listened to, Sex, Power, and Magnetism for Women. I'd love you to share some of the core aspects of, for you, what magnetism is and what it is to be powerful as you come through these layers, as you come through these stories, and even on a if you're still in a tender spot, what people can sort of move towards with the light, and what we can expect as well when you start doing these, start becoming more magnetic.
Yeah, this kind of relates to what we were talking about before, just to pick up that thread with switching from wearing this masculine suit of armor. And there's an archetypal story in the kind of tantric lineage of the hollow queen.
Ooh.
And it's just such a powerful metaphor that I love. And it's, I won't go into all the details here, but it's like the distorted feminine, where in the Shiva Shakti polarity, the greatest longing for Shiva and the masculine is to be empty. It's like stillness, pure consciousness, nothingness. And the greatest desire of the feminine, Shakti, is fullness. It's like life force. So the hollow queen is a distorted feminine archetype where she longs for fullness, but she's unable to self-source that. So she looks outwards. She looks for external validation. She fills that hole with food, alcohol, scrolling, shopping, Netflix, like all the things. Becomes outward, overly fixated on outward appearances, like so many traits that we see all around us, kind of every day. And I know I've certainly had that experience as well, where I felt like I wasn't holding my own energy. It was all just like pulling out around my feet, and then I was trying to wear this suit of armor. So I'm just going to like link back to that earlier point. And then when we look at the more healthy expression of femininity, it's where a lot of this is about self-reverence. Actually, that's a term I just want to drop in here as being really central. And for me, this has come through like working through those dark, sticky layers of shame and reckoning with myself. Working with embodiment practices to actually move the shame and the grief and the rage through my body, instead of just pretending everything's fine and having another glass of wine, which I did used to do. Yes, as the embodiment, but then also this concept of ensoulment and recognizing that you're like a channel of divine love, and you're worthy of reverence. It's like we talk about self-love, but I like the term reverence. It's actually just holding yourself as this, you know, you're like the temple, you're this sacred feminine being. And I think when we hold ourselves in that space instead, we start to be able to generate that feeling of fullness and light from within. And we're not necessarily taught this as girls, a lot of us. You know, I didn't grow up with models of womanhood around me where self-reverence was a thing. Like I grew up with models of womanhood where it's always about sacrificing, putting everyone else first, doing more, this kind of martyrdom picture, but it doesn't actually serve anyone when you martyr yourself. Like it feels like you're serving your children, your partner and whoever, but you're not actually serving anyone. So it's this concept of like putting on your own oxygen mask first. And we talked a bit about that concept of like being a channel. That's the ultimate kind of expression of the feminine, is like you're a channel of love, light, energy, if you like. There's lots of different metaphors I could throw in. But for that to flow, you need to use that metaphor again, you need to dredge the river. Like you need to clear the blocks and clear the muck out of the way. So embodiment practices that work with rage, I think, are really helpful. Like if you've never listened to thrash metal and punched pillows, go and do that. Before you start trying to ascend to this place of love and light, like go and beat a pillow for 20 minutes and see how you feel after that. See what comes up. Yeah, it's so cathartic and so powerful. Working with shame and sitting with like, how do I actually feel about this? There's this term emotional granularity. This is, sorry, I'm just throwing out a grab bag of different ideas.
I love it. I love
practices.
this. I love all the new language. This is empowering too for those of us listening in. Having language to name these things is really empowering. Please go on.
Yeah, I love this. So this term emotional granularity kind of applies to all of these concepts, and it's about being able to really clearly interpret what's going on inside of our bodies. In nervous system language, this is called interoception. It's about like sensing what's going on inside. So this is the difference between getting home from work when you're like tired and wired and eating a bag of chips and drinking 2 glasses of wine just to try and take the edge off, versus getting home from work and going, how am I feeling? Oh, I'm super frazzled. I'm going to go for a walk for 10 minutes and then I'm going to like do some breathing for 3 minutes or whatever you can carve out with your family. But actually taking the moment to feel into what's going on in your body and then choose healthier pathways to regulate that rather than just bypassing it. So I
That
think
was a
that's
powerful, powerful tip there. That was a powerful tool. To take a pause. What I heard you say was to take a pause instead of going into a habit, which would be to self-soothe with food or with consumption. And instead of that question, getting curious, bringing curiosity to it and taking a pause and then redirecting that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's being brave again to go, oh, this is uncomfortable. I don't, because we do the self-soothing because we don't want to deal with what's there. Like we just bypass it. And our brain gets so good at running on that track. It's like as soon as we sense the edge of that, we just like, I'm going to jump right over that. I don't want to look at it. I'm just going to put it to the side and hope it goes away. But it's having the courage to get pause and look at that discomfort and just sit in the discomfort of it. So yeah, I think that I don't remember if I'm actually answering your question, but
You totally are. Well, what we're talking about here is magnetism
oh yeah,
and how we become magnetic and what it feels like as well to be magnetic for you once you start to become magnetic. And even, for example, here when you're talking about, I mean, the difference between having a couple glasses of wine and a bag of chips and going for a walk and doing some deep breathing, like there's a big difference in how you feel on the other side of that. Not to make either one of those right or wrong, but there is a difference energetically in how you feel
yeah,
when you make that choice.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a cumulative thing. You know, I certainly don't make perfect choices all the time. I don't think it. Well, maybe some people do. I don't. There's maybe someone more evolved than me out there.
Right.
But it's the cumulative effect of the choices that you make over time. So each time you pattern interrupt is a win, even if you don't manage to do it every time. But yeah, I think those choices make a big difference. I think a huge one is boundaries. And this kind of ties with that concept of compliance and the good girl and the people pleaser. And I know every man and his dog is talking about boundaries. But something that I like to offer in this space is if you start to, and it happens hand in hand with that emotional granularity, it's like tuning in and going, like I had an example this week where it got late. I had a commitment early in the morning. I had client work I still needed to do, but I could feel this like sympathetic activation charge in my body. And 5 years ago, I would have just hammered through it. You know, I've got to get this done. But I just went, do I absolutely have to do this tonight? No, I don't. I'm going to email my client and just push this back. And it was completely fine. But it was that moment of sending that email and being like, oh, is this going to rock the boat? I don't know. And the trick, I think, with boundaries is feeling into what's going on within you, making decisions that support you and your needs, and then actually being able to sit in the discomfort of setting that boundary, because it's really uncomfortable if you've spent a lifetime trying to make sure that everyone else is happy and you start to set boundaries and push back and advocate for your own needs.
Yeah.
There's this backlash of like, oh my God, have I just destroyed this relationship? Oh, like it can be a real spiral, and it takes practice of sitting in it. And the other thing I like about Tantra in this frame is like your own inner masculine. It's like this inner containment and building that strength within yourself to be able to hold yourself in the way that the masculine holds the feminine. And to go, yep, I know we're having a little spiral. I know this feels really uncomfortable, but that was look back over the situation. Yes, that was the right thing to do for me. I'm stepping into a newer version of myself, that whatever you need to tell yourself. Yeah, I think boundaries and kind of moving out of that good girl persona are really crucial to this, because no woman standing in her full radiance and magnetism is wedded to her good girl persona, because good girls don't take up space and unapologetically, they're not unapologetically visible, right? And that's part of this pathway. So yeah, it's a few ideas there.
Yeah, well, when you say good girl, can you elaborate on good girl more so that we can understand even more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very tied to this concept of compliance. So there's a study, I'll find it and send it to you, Chrystal, if you want to put it in
Awesome.
the show notes.
Yeah.
But there's a study that shows that in young boys, expressions of vulnerability, crying, things like that are less common and less kind of acceptable. But expressions of aggression are more tolerated. And the inverse is true for young girls. So we're more likely to comfort a young girl who's crying or upset or saying she needs help than we are to tolerate a little girl who's expressing anger. And so we learn very young that we need to make sure everyone else is happy. And I think this is part of feminine coding as well. It's like we're not the hunter, we're the gatherer. Our survival depends on belonging to the tribe. And this is true for all people to an extent. But we prioritize belonging over our own needs often. And it comes from childhood. And it's coded so deep for so many of us. I think some of us experience this more than others, this kind of good girl conditioning.
Yeah.
But it can be very uncomfortable to disrupt that pattern. And for me, I've found it's been disrupted by these patterns of dissent where like the good girl couldn't come, she could not survive. That when you've been through that underworld journey and you've been wounded and you're bleeding and you're like trying to pull yourself back up to the surface, the good girl can't help you there. Like it activates something stronger in you. So yeah, I think that's, and I guess in contrast to that, when we move past this good girl conditioning, then we enter a space where we're not nasty to people. It's not about being rude. It's just about being sovereign and having this sense of self-reverence. Like my needs matter. My needs are valid. I'm not going to bend myself out of shape to make other people comfortable. I'm not going to make myself smaller because my light makes that person uncomfortable. It's like a reappraising how we navigate different relationships.
And tying back in your boundaries with that too, that the good girl part of us might not have the boundary areas around to say no.
Yeah.
And to persevere in other areas too. It might be weaker or softer in those areas and not have or be more tolerant.
Yeah. And override her own inner sense that I'm not comfortable with this isn't right, but she doesn't want to rock the boat. So, and sometimes that's almost unconscious. We're not even aware.
Yeah.
There's this little niggle saying, this is not right for me. But we're just so used to saying, yep, 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 that we keep going and find ourselves really out of alignment with ourselves.
And to realign, because reclaiming, so I feel like this is a good spot for this. And I just want to check in with your time frame too, because it's 1:06 now. Are you okay? Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
keep going a bit longer.
I love this conversation because I feel like we're really getting into it now.
We're going to be like a 3-hour bro podcast.
I'm roaring.
I feel like it's only the bros who do 3-hour podcasts. Why?
Why? I know. Like,
I
what
don't
do
see
they have
women
to say?
taking up- Yeah.
I've heard it. I've heard it all. We're done with you. Yeah. Well, I know. What do they say? The sound of your own voice.
Yeah. Well, then maybe they're just more comfortable taking up space. I don't know.
I love this too. So two things here, two really powerful, these concepts coming together, right? Because when you're contrasting, when you say good girl, there must be something else. And it's not necessarily bad, but it becomes a more mature stage of growth and development. And when I said tolerant earlier, I want to just explain, I didn't mean like that when you become when you grow past certain stages that you're not intolerant either. And it doesn't mean that you're not embracing compassion and flexibility. I just wanted to differentiate those two ideas for myself, that
Yeah.
I said that, but I didn't mean that, when you're younger, you're just way more tolerant and can understand and let things go. And also that good girl doesn't necessarily mean younger, but often it is associated with more nativity and a more maiden stage
Mm.
of development as well.
Yeah.
And now we're moving, because to go past that, and this is something, a big part of your work, it's talking about reclaiming, and this is a title that we are kind of even thinking about too, was reclaiming erotic power and becoming unshakable
Mm.
in your self-worth.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh,
No,
juiciness.
this
I
one,
love this so
see,
much. I just I just want to say, like, I feel like we couldn't have talked about it at the very beginning, but let's talk about it now.
no, this is great. I think there's so many complex ideas here. It's nice to just be able to like untangle the ball, and I'm happy to stay on a bit longer. That's perfect. I feel like, oh,
Thank you.
I feel relieved actually, like, okay, we can actually go into this. So if we talk about boundaries, if we've got the good girl who, and I think there is, like, I think I understand what you mean about tolerance. For me, I see it as a lack of discernment as well. It's that naive, trusting,
I like that.
saying yes.
Yeah.
That's been yeah, that ties into my experience very much. And when we talk about boundaries, we often think of no, like about a boundary is about saying no. What am I saying no to? And then the flip side of that is like owning your no and also owning your yes. So the other side of that is more around desire and pleasure. And you just mentioned erotic power. And I think that for a lot of women, what holds us back is actually our own inner shame. And this can come from experiences that we've had. Like I had an experience in my life that I had a lot of shame that I had to work through with that. And I think we have this conditioned epigenetic shame that's come from the behavioral patterns I've learned from my mother, that she learned from her mother, that she learned that going back like hundreds of years since the time when if a woman stood out too much, she was burnt at the stake. Like this is passed down our female line. And something that's central to our shame is our sexual expression. And I talk about this a lot in my work, because it's something that I had to reckon with in my own story of being vulnerable to this man who kind of activated something in me that I was suppressing. And that journey of sitting with like, what am I responsible for here? Oh, I knew that there was this hunger and this desire. I love the word hunger even more than desire, because it's like this feral, primal, wild, uncontainable part of self that we don't know what to do with it. It's terrifying, often to ourselves and often to our partners as well, by the way. It's like, oh my, what's she going to do? Like, it's terrifying. So we can suppress it. And it's been the reason why I work so much with this is because it's been a big part of it's like why I started studying Tantra. It's like, what is this hunger in me that I need to understand more? Because I know it's powerful, because it had the power to destroy my whole life. So surely there must be some upsides to that as well. And when we look at those, I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher now as well. And it's again working with not like sexual, in that lineage, my teacher would be horrified if I was like, oh, it's all about sexual energy. It's not, but it's the same. It's like your Kundalini, it's Kundalini Shakti. It's a form of Shakti energy. And in that lineage, it appears in the tantric tradition as well. It's conceived of as a serpent coiled at the base of the spine, and it's something that we can activate, and then that we like unlock this massive life force energy that can flow throughout our whole body and our whole life. And I think that we've got these conditioning that goes back to biblical times where Eve ate the apple, listened to her hunger, and destroyed all of humanity. Like, don't listen to your hunger, like it's bad, it's dangerous, just put it in a box and ignore it. Like that, these are the stories that we've been absorbing since we were little girls. It's no wonder we struggle to look at these darker pieces of ourselves. So I think there can be a lot of shame around that. But when we again are brave enough to actually look at it and like lift the lid on the Pandora's box, we unlock this huge power source within ourselves, and this sense of being unfuckwithable. I love that word because, again, to draw on like why I've gone into this work, I got fucked with. Like I got massively fucked with, and nobody's ever going to fuck with me like that ever again, because I'm now in touch with my own power. And yeah, I get so excited about this piece of the work because I think it is really, really empowering, and I don't think we talk about it enough.
I think that's a new word for the dictionary. Just, just letting you know. It wasn't a straight out F word. So I'm just saying we haven't had one on the podcast yet. So
Sorry.
breaking all kinds of barriers here. People, we're making all
You
kinds
said
of
that word
history.
first. You said that word first, didn't you? I felt like I had permission.
No, I love it. I actually love that word,
Sorry.
and it was in my notes to
Sorry,
you.
everybody.
That word like came up to me because I was like, yeah, let's be unfuckwithable. Like, I think Marie Forleo says it's figure outable, but
Yeah.
don't be, you got to be unfuckwithable to figure it out sometimes. That's what I want to
I
say.
love the combo of those two.
It's like, seriously though, that's golden wisdom that's come through to say, to harnessing. And I would love to hear, but first of all, I want to reflect back to you what I heard. Just a small context was that this power that you're speaking of can be named as like a sensual or sexual power, but that's a limited view of it. And because these conversations can be tainted, this is part of why I didn't want to put any of this like language in the title, because as soon as you start talking about this, some people close down, and you name shame. And I want to just invite people to get curious about that right now. If some of this stuff that's just come up, you're like, whoa, wait, where are we going now? You're still in a safe space, but it's also a space where you can start getting curious. And when I talk about safe spaces too, and there was somebody else who came on who runs circles, and she talked about it can be so safe that we can explore new things and grow. So this is an invitation to anyone who's listening right now to grow into these spaces and to get curious about our own feminine energy, our own feminine power, our own desires, whether they be sexual or not, that we have inner yearnings, and that these inner yearnings have information for us.
Yeah.
And that when we tap into that, what I'm seeing is this wellspring of just like light and greatness, this energy that can be unleashed within us. And when we hold back from those inner yearnings, when we suppress them or say I should be ashamed of that, or that's not something we should talk about as a lady, or for example, I wonder if that's true. I wonder if that's serving us. And this is really, your work is about this too, bringing these powerful questions to us as women, saying, what are your desires? What do you deeply want? And is that wrong? You have some really bold statements on your podcast, and some of them are around sexual desire and what women want and how we're able to express those desires or not, and how we're judging one another as well as women and girls in society, of saying that making somebody wrong for wanting to be sexy, for example, or wanting to be gazed at. And you share that story about Shakti and Shiva and this energy of filling and emptying. And within that, the want of the female energy to be admired and to be, you use this other word, chosen as well sometimes in your work. And that plays into all the subtext that's going on under here in this underworld that you're talking about. It's like all there, but we're like choking it down with that wine and those chips, and and the scroll,
We
the
do.
deadening
The
scroll,
scroll.
as
The
oh, I
mind
got
on
enough.
one hand is
I'm
strong.
okay. I don't need I don't really need some hot romance, or it's just
Yeah.
that was silly.
Oh, I loved everything you just said so much. And apologies, everyone listening, for swearing. I won't swear anymore. I do swear on my podcast. Crystal's mentioned. I've dropped a few F bombs over there. Yeah, I just want to piggyback off that to say that I think people can shut down when you start talking about owning your sexual expression and your erotic power and talking about Tantra in the same breath. I do not advocate women to, and there's no judgment here either, but just to be really super clear, my work is not about polyamory or, you know, having a whole heap of casual sex with heaps of different people and like just sharing your sexual energy around. I think that's actually incredibly depleting for women. That's I don't have any judgment of other people, but that's my personal choice in that department. And this energy, again, in the work that I do and the way that I teach, it actually has nothing to do with anyone else at all. It's your life force energy. It's your, like, this is the energy that has the power to create new life. We have an egg factory inside of us, if you're still ovulating, that has the, like, it's a portal to life and death every single month. And I think we forget the death part, right? Like, that's what a period is. It's a death. Yeah, there's like a potential life and then there's a death every 30 days inside your body. Like, this is the magnitude of this energy. It's incredibly potent and powerful. And so one of the things that I've kind of gleaned along my journey with the Kundalini yoga tradition is talking about this urge to merge, like this longing for intimacy and connection, and that can be expressed outwards, like, you know, wanting to connect with others, with intimate partners. But another way to view that is that it's ultimately an urge to merge of the human soul looking to merge back with the divine. If we're like, we've come from the all of everything into this human body, and our soul is actually like aching from whence it's come, to get a little bit woo-woo and spiritual for a moment. But I love that concept when we talk about activating this energy, because it can feel really scary and destructive if you've had the lid tightly on the Pandora's box of whatever's under the surface for you. It can feel quite destructive because it can be just like, it's this life and death portal. It can be really destructive. But if we view it as something that we can learn to activate and circulate like upwards instead of outwards, and remind ourselves that it actually has nothing to do with anyone else. You don't need to go and, you know, have a whole lot of crazy sexual experiences in order to activate your sexual energy or your life force energy or your Kundalini energy. You have sovereignty over that within your own body. And it's something that influences how you show up in the world, but it doesn't have to be expressed in a particular way with other people. So I just wanted to pick up on that and kind of affirm what you're saying, that I'm not advocating for any particular like interpersonal practices here. It's more about your empowerment and sovereignty and wholeness as a woman. And then the other thing you were talking about is like looking at these desires, and this is through a heteronormative lens. I would just, like, a lot of my work is through that because it's, you know, my own embodied experience kind of picked over for the wisdom within. But in terms of how we relate to men, again, in that tantric tradition, you referenced the Shiva Shakti. It's not, we're not the same. Like, we don't long for the same things. There's like, look at a power socket. There's like a masculine side and a feminine side, you know, like this is the essence of what we are longing for. And I think for a woman, I'm going to speak a little bit poetically here, but this was certainly my experience. It's like you feel like there's an ocean inside of you, and there is a longing for that ocean to be charted. Like, there is this deep longing to be known as a woman and to be known and witnessed. And for the masculine, he's like a beam of light in the darkness. That's like this beautiful, pure expression of Shiva Shakti energy. He's the experiencer and she's the experience. And I know I do. I think many of us long to be in that space of being the experience and it being experienced by the masculine. And it's this kind of penetrative energy from the masculine that's strong and commanding and not not like a feminized hipster scooting around sipping a latte necessarily. Although that's what we're kind of in this feminist paradigm that we're in, where we're trying to compete within a masculine language of power and we can't compete. So we're saying you men need to be less because we can't compete with you. But we don't actually want, if we're in this like heteronormative paradigm again, I would argue most women don't actually want a super feminized man. It doesn't turn us on necessarily. So yeah, I think there's a bit of a paradox there that I know it's a bit provocative, but I like to poke at it.
Yeah, very provocative. And you're bringing together some really complex kind of ideas too, because you're talking about spiritual, not complex, but you're bringing together two ideas that are part of the same thing, but we have separated as well. The sacredness of the act of coming together with someone. I just want to throw that in the hat too, because I feel like that's what you're referencing as well. That we, through acts of coming together, that we are in worship as well, that can be a form when people ultimately have that same vision. It would make it even more so. However, ultimately we're all seeking to merge back with the divine, and through our experiences of self-exploration and having different relationships, we're working out what that could be like. That's part of the conversation. And the other part is that a woman has the ability to do that on her own. And when she does that, she can become even more magnetic, even more powerful, because she is harnessing all, and I use that visual here for anyone who's on YouTube. I'm like, allowing the light to come up and come out. Right. But this is where we're headed is from the lower root chakra sort of area up through the crown of the head. And how do you have practices in your Kundalini practice or in your life that help this energy come alive and up, that you'd like to share or can share? Because I know there are certain things that are not safe to share unless somebody has had practice and has knowledge around that. But is there something you could give to those of us who are not practicing Kundalini yet, or that we might be able to use?
Yeah. Yes. And agree with everything that you've just said. I think it's about activating this energy for yourself, for your own empowerment. It's connecting to the divine. And I don't want to say, like, it's not about, you shouldn't be in relationship with men either. It's not about that. I just wanted to be really clear that I'm not advocating for any like out there interpersonal practices as part of this work. But certainly in that sacred intimacy, that can be a very beautiful place to practice this like elevation of that energy, as you're talking about as well. In terms of practices, all of Kundalini yoga is, and it's not coming at it from a sexual perspective, it's about like unleashing your power and your life force energy. But we do a lot of breath work, like a lot of breath of fire, which is, do you want me to talk through what that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm off the screen. You can hear me. Yes, please share the breath of fire technique with us.
Yeah, so the breath of fire is quite a rapid breathing technique in and out through the nose, and you focus on the out breath, and it's just a little sniff in through the nose, and you pump the navel on each out breath. So the navel point is like central to everything in Kundalini yoga. It's like the center of our fire. That's our willpower chakra. You know, we do it, it's really central to the practice. So the breath of fire, I don't know if anyone's on YouTube, I'm going to do like 20 seconds of it.
Yes,
Let's
go.
So it's a powerful exhale through the nose and then a sniff inhale, and the inhale sort of happens by itself and you're pumping the navel. On the exhale, a bit like this. And then we also do a lot of breath holds on suspending the in-breath for quite long holds, like it depends what you can tolerate, 30 seconds, a minute and a half, and also holding on the out-breath. And we use the root lock, which is contracting the sex organs and the perineum, for anyone who doesn't know what the root lock is, just to really, on a suspended breath, to draw that energy up the spine. So that's like fundamental to a Kundalini yoga class. We do that almost at the end of every posture, those holds and that practice of drawing the energy up. There's also, I've been studying Taoist practices as well, and there's this beautiful practice called ovarian breathing, where you put your hands shaped like this and your thumbs are on your belly button. And then your little fingers are kind of out towards your hip bones where your ovaries would be. And the space in between your thumbs and your forefingers is called the ovarian palace. And you close your eyes, and as you inhale, you visualize. It's quite an extended practice. Mantak Chia teaches this practice for anyone who wants to look it up. But you practice breathing the energy from your ovaries into that ovarian palace in the center of your hands, and then down into your sex organs, perineum, and then up the back of the spine, through the crown of the head, and you practice storing it in the navel center, actually, which again in Taoism is, so like the ancient Chinese and the ancient Indian practitioners were onto the same thing, then it's got to mean something, which is all about like the central importance of this navel point in the body.
Oh, I love that. I love the breath of fire is something I also do. And so I love to hear that that's it's me doing the breath of fire. To have that is as a daily staple for people as well, to do that unless you are pregnant or menstruating. Do you do it when you're menstruating or?
I do, yeah, but you
Yeah.
are supposed to. Sorry, I should have added that.
Oh yeah, no, I just, yeah, it's my years of
Yeah.
working with the body in different ways, like you know, in different contexts. But yeah,
Yeah.
so, but having that's a really powerful way. When we talk about breath retention, yeah, is that breath retention or exhale inhale retention or exhale retention?
Both, but particularly
Yeah.
inhale retention.
Yeah, and root lock on each time, inhale or
Yeah.
exhale retention. So for people who are wanting to explore that, we'll put that in the show notes too, as a practice that you can take home and start to. These are somatic practices, just to reference that and to clarify that for people. These are somatic practices, which means they work with the body and bringing alignment through physical practices that are also elevating mental and emotional states as well. So the benefits are increased energy. What are some of the benefits of doing something like this? What will you feel?
Yeah. What I love about breath work, and many of these somatic practices, chanting and using the voice is another one where these ancient spiritual traditions have been teaching these practices for hundreds and in some cases thousands of years. And we've now got this whole body of work of modern Western neuroscience that's backing up what the yogis have been saying for all these years. It's like proving it out. So it depends on the type of breath that you're using. And the online education business I worked with was called Nervous System School. So I was very immersed in the neuroscience of these somatics. And we used to talk a lot about specificity as being really important for neuroplasticity. So that means that if, for example, if you're in a state of sympathetic arousal where you're feeling That's fight or flight, right? Where you're feeling agitated, your thoughts are racing, there's maybe a sense of fear or panic, maybe your palms are sweaty, maybe your shoulders are tense, you have a sense of urgency, some of the common symptoms people experience. Doing long, slow, deep breathing will help to regulate you, and especially if the exhale is longer than the inhale, because that's a down regulating breath pattern. Doing breath of fire, you can still do breath of fire if you're in that state, but it might serve you to do some vigorous movement first, like shaking, put on your favorite song and dance your heart out for 3 minutes. You'll be amazed how much you can shift your state. And then when we look at a state of hypoarousal instead of that sympathetic like hyperarousal, where in hypoarousal we might feel really flat, we might feel lethargic, we might feel mentally foggy, our thoughts are spacey. Instead of a sense of urgency, it's like, oh, what's the point? I just want to like hop into bed and not talk to anyone. If you're more in that state, doing that breath pattern of a shorter inhale and a longer exhale won't serve you because that's down regulating. So breath of fire would actually be more helpful then, because that's quite an activating breath. But yes, it can definitely help to improve your mood, improve your mental clarity, can increase your sense of energy and vitality, and this sense of like the connection between the brain and the body as well, which I find a really beautiful side effect of that practice.
And you mentioned through the practice, you said you can also dance it out with a song. So that brings me to one of our questions we have here, which is, do you have a song that you dance it out to, or a favorite song or anthem, something that you're listening to right now? You can share with us.
What I've got on high rotation at the moment, particularly with my daughter, is I Feel Better When I'm Dancing, whatever that Megan Trainor song is. Just probably relevant to this conversation.
I feel better when I'm dancing.
Yeah. It's a fun one to put on first thing in the morning.
Awesome. I love music and I love getting in state with music, and we have a playlist, so you will find that on the show notes as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's something that right away I was like, ooh, you know what? I'm gonna have a playlist. Because I just love hearing other people's music too. Like what gets you in state, what kind of what your jam, what your rock is.
Oh, I'm going to have a listen to that. I love that. What a beautiful like time capsule of all the guests that you've had on this show.
Yes. Yeah, it is. So there's so many things. There's so many questions I still have for you. And I know I just want to check in with timing for you right now too, and everything, and see if you're still okay.
Yeah, I'm still okay. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because one of these questions around being unshakable and reclaiming your power in self-worth, because your journey of self-worth as well, you shared parts of your journey with us. And how has owning some of these things helped you reclaim your self-worth? What do you have a daily practice that you do? Is this something that you kind of feel in your body, or is this something that you've seen over time? Or can you share with us what becoming unshakable means to you in your self-worth?
A lot of grace and self-forgiveness, I think, especially in my journey as a mother, and especially as a single mother. I, sometimes sit with friends who are partnered and they talk about something that's happened with their children where I feel like they're all much better mothers than me, but they'll talk about something that's happened that they're giving themselves a hard time about. And I so often just go, oh, I've so long ago given myself grace on that particular piece of the puzzle. Like I've just had to have so much grace and softness with myself. And that's been a big journey because I used to push myself very, very hard. But again, it's this journey of just being brought to my knees and having no choice actually, but to go, I just need to honor my own neurobiological limits and do the best I can and practice radical self-compassion. That's been a big part of the journey for me. Um, what else? But I feel like there's two parts to this. It's partly self-compassion. It's like the soft and I don't want to say the hard, but there's discipline in these practices as well. And I think self-worth and self-love, like I'm much more forgiving. I'm at a heavier weight now than I have been for, post two kids. Like I'm at a heavier weight than I have been for a lot of my adult life. And yet I feel more comfortable in my body.
Yeah.
Like I'm more forgiving of myself. And I'm also more disciplined with exercise than I've ever been because I see the impact of when I actually carve out time for this and prioritize self-care, even though I could be working or there's like 500 million other things I could be doing. But when I prioritize doing my exercise, most days, I know that it pays off in so many ways. So there's like this discipline that comes with it as well, with that self-care and self-worth. What else has been helpful for me? I think that inner masculine, inner feminine piece was really helpful because I think I had kind of I think a lot of us when we're in that hustle mode, it's kind of a distorted, immature masculine energy of push, 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 go, 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 don't stop, be really hard and tough and just don't show any weakness. But that's not, and we talk about toxic masculinity as if that's the only type of masculinity, but that's actually a distorted masculine energy. And healthy masculine energy is grounded and supportive and protective and provides vision and direction and provision. It's like a caretaking energy. And a big part of my journey into the level of self-worth that I have now, which is vastly different to where I was 10 years ago, has been really cultivating that inner and the marriage between the inner masculine and the inner feminine and building that structure so that I have more capacity to hold myself, like to hold the soft, feminine, vulnerable part of me. And I think motherhood is such a powerful teacher in that. I don't know if you've had this experience, but when you have your little baby who's so vulnerable and tender and you're parenting your child and there's like this grief of, oh my God, I've been such a nasty mother to myself and now I can hold this little being with so much love and tenderness. And it's in such contrast to how you've maybe held yourself that I think that's part of the grace and the shift for me is, motherhood influencing how I mother myself.
The deep compassion that you name, and then the reflectiveness of being reborn into a new person and seeing life completely differently. Like, talk about perspective shifts. There's nothing like nothing that I've experienced yet like becoming a mother, and grace to those people who are really wanting to become a mother or really yearning to step into that, who haven't been able to, and to those who don't want to either. Just naming these things around mother energy. There are many of us who will never have children that are still mothers in some capacity. Maybe you're mothering your community, or you're mothering yourself again. You're becoming the mother to yourself. I listened to this beautiful podcast where the woman was talking about how she became the mother for herself again, like you named there. And it was actually something kind of new for me to reflect on. And hearing you name it was so powerful here, because I'm like, wow, this is when you can come to that space where you have that kind of love for yourself. There's no returning from that, because it's like when you have a child and love them, you don't just stop loving them, or haven't stopped loving. Again, there are extreme examples where this does not happen, but overall, the intention behind having a child is to love that child unconditionally. And when we do that, when we open up that space of unconditional love and invite ourselves back into that, I was just gonna cry even
I
right now,
know.
you
Well,
know,
it makes
just
you, that was my experience. It makes you realize how much you've pushed yourself out of the fold. And it's
oh
loving
my
your
God.
child in those moments where they're not behaving how you want them to, where
Mhm.
they're tantruming and screaming at you and possibly punching you, as my 7-year-old son
Yeah.
does sometimes. I know
Mhm.
you've got one of the same
Got
age,
a
so
wildling too. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like being
Mm.
able to have grace and compassion for them in those moments, yeah,
Mhm.
I think gives you a different relationship to your own inner child. And also the times when you don't have grace and compassion
Yeah.
and you lose your temper, which does
Mhm.
happen for me.
Yeah.
But there's so much grace in parenting. It's like, oh, I
Mhm.
fell off the horse. I'm going to apologize to my kid. I'm going to try and do it differently next time. Oh, I got triggered again. I still didn't handle it perfectly. Oh, this time I did quite well. Oh, this time I didn't do. It's just, this is ongoing. It's not like you have one chance to get it right. And I think it just
Mm.
cracks open this new way of relating to yourself as well.
And this is a thread that, to bring in one more of your threads that you had earlier about the healing taking time, and that this process can be over long periods of time. In that space when something is taking more time, like, you also have more chances, because it's not a one-time show. It's not a one and done. You don't just crack
Mm,
open and it's over and you move on and you never reflect back and have shadows. It's an ongoing, it's a long game.
yeah,
It's a long game,
100%.
and when you play the long game, you're playing it differently.
Yep.
And you having to step back and say, I can't solve it all right now. This is what I can do. I got to give myself some grace so I can keep going,
Mm,
because we haven't passed it all yet either. This is a real, for me, a really big part of her brave story as well, is that we're not done. The project's not finished. We're the ongoing experiment.
yep.
And
And
so
by the
we,
way, so is everyone else.
yeah,
That's what's so beautiful
we
about
can
it.
change things. We don't have to cling to something that is not
Mm,
serving us, such as self judgment over and over, saying, oh, I didn't get it right that time, and then the next time I just didn't get it right. It's okay to not get it right.
mm,
But what's not okay is to keep telling yourself you're not getting right, and not taking any time to reflect or care for yourself differently so that you can make improvements.
yep.
And that's really what these conversations are about too, is it's not that we don't make mistakes and we don't get things wrong and we don't fail a lot of times. It's that we get back up, we look around and say, okay, that was crazy. Um, what just happened? Let's take stock. Okay, all right, okay. Regather, regroup, and move on.
Yeah. And not taking yourself too seriously in that, I think, is like being able to laugh at yourself and go, oh my God, I am a hot mess today. Like, this is a disaster. And realizing, I found this really helpful in leadership as well, that everybody has days
Mm,
where they are really not at their best.
mm,
And everybody has days where they're completely overwhelmed, and everybody has days where they feel like giving up. And I know I feel like this sounds cliched, but sometimes we forget that. And we get so boxed into trying to pretend that we have it all together. Nobody's got it all together all the time. It's human. Like, it's okay to laugh at that as well. And I think that can really make that recovery cycle shorter. It's like, oh God, I really fell off the wagon in whatever sense, like whatever you're trying to change, whatever habit you're trying to change, whatever pathway, you're going to slip up. And it's okay to just, I mean, depending on how painful it is, you might not feel like laughing. Um, but it's okay. Like, you will get back on the track again.
mm. You will. And this is a great time to share this episode with someone who needs to hear Maddie's brave story. And he needs to hear that right now. I think it's a really powerful message for women in particular. Yeah, everybody else has those shitty days too.
Mm.
You're not the only one who hasn't figured everything out in the world.
Yep.
You're
And
not the only one who's struggling to, connect the dots, even though you've heard it over and over. It's okay to drop the ball. It's okay to scream and yell. It's okay to fall down.
Mm. And also for the entrepreneurs or the artists out there listening, like it's okay to try different things. Every entrepreneur I know has
Ooh.
thrown a bunch of different things at the wall until something stuck. It's like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. Like you actually just have to keep going. It's when you give up that you fail. And this is something I've been really grappling with lately as someone who, like, I identify more as an artist than a business person.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a very creative background too, Chrystal, so I don't know if this might resonate with you, but I tried to put myself in this box of like, I've got to be a business coach. Like, I need to package myself in this way to set up this type of business. But it felt so suffocating because it's like all my creative work, all this wild feminine expressions that want to come tumbling through me don't fit into that little like Instagram personal brand of being a business coach. And what I'm navigating at the moment is actually I have many facets, and trying to adhere to a personal brand is kind of exhausting when there's like multiple pieces that want to come through you. And I think a really big realization for me, it just in the last few months, because I've had a few really strong creative impulses over the last, like, say 5 years of going through this underworld journey. And at the time, they didn't necessarily make sense. But now in hindsight, I can see, that little voice was so wise because it unlocked this. And then the next decision unlocked this. And now I'm at this, like, when you look back and you can see where that little voice was leading you. But at the time you're like, okay, I guess I'll do that left field thing because it feels right and I'm trusting my intuition. But yeah, I don't know. I think what I'm getting at is we were talking about it's being okay to make mistakes and not to take yourself so seriously and to just adopt this attitude of playfulness and expression and creativity. Like, life's too short to try and be so rigid and stick yourself into one particular box, I think.
Very wise. And within that, how are you supporting people to do this? And where's your work taking you now?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good segue. I have been building this body of work. I've got some creative projects that are kind of taking up my attention at the moment. And I do work with clients still in a kind of operational leadership capacity, working alongside founders and CEOs to help bring their visions to life. So there's some of the things that I've got on my plate at the moment. I do have on my website a guide that you can access called Burnout Brain, which is kind of drawing on my experience of burnout, but it's bringing together the neuroscience perspective on what's happening in your brain-body system when you're experiencing burnout, because this is an epidemic affecting so many women. But I think often the conversation that we're having about it, we talk about the mental load and we talk about flexible work arrangements, but I think we're missing this kind of deeper piece of the story, which is the spiritual side of burnout and why we end in this place and what maybe our soul is trying to speak to us when we have these experiences of just reaching absolute exhaustion and disengagement with our life. So that's on my website. There's a free audio meditation if anyone wants to sign up for that. It's all about energetic containment, which is very relevant to everything we've been talking about today. So yeah, I'm kind of doing this creative work, weaving these different pieces together. And the other thing I have just started actually today was my first session for anyone who's local in the Byron Bay area in northern New South Wales. I've just started teaching a weekly Kundalini yoga and kirtan practice, which is a combination of breath work and movement and mantra singing together, which the voice has been so central to my journey, and it feels like super beautiful for me to be able to offer this. So yeah, I can share the details for that as well. That's on Wednesday mornings.
Oh, that would, oops, that would be amazing. I was just going to try to bring up your website if I can do that here. I was wondering because you said that. I was like, oh, I wonder if she'll want to, if if you would want to. Here, we're going to get it up. If you're on YouTube, you can see us here. This is Madeleine Eliza's page at madeleineeliza.com, and female leadership. Here you can also see this incredible woman who we have gotten to hear from. Her testimonials and feedback are just next level. The people you've helped and been in in companies with and worked for, and all her awards. Here's some of the awards recognition that you've got. It's just really feel so very grateful to be having your leadership here with us today and having this opportunity to be with you. This is also where you're going to find Madeleine's The Brain Burnout opportunity. What if, I love this, what if burnout was a sacred initiation? Yeah, this is your map here. What if everything you thought you knew about burnout was wrong? And you're going to get to have these opportunities on her website, and you can find out more about Kundalini Yoga as well. And as an artist, with your music and your soul sadhana, these are so beautiful too. I wonder, will you teach online at all? Do you think you'll do that in the future, or?
Yeah, I just have to sort out the tech. So I'm teaching at the moment in this beautiful temple space in the Byron hinterland, on this property owned by this incredible yogi. Her name is Premila. She's going to be 90 in a few weeks.
Wow.
And she's like such a force of nature and just wild feminine incarnate. So it feels really beautiful to be in her space and in her lineage. And I am my own roadie, so I feel so pleased with myself. Even here, it's like, oh, I got the tech to work, and my microphone didn't fall off the stand that's attached to my kid's high chair here in front of me, so I'm winning. And same thing. I've got microphones and speakers and all the things. Next, I thought I'll just get through the first couple and make sure that works, and then I would love to be able to do like a live Zoom, or then offer the recordings. And I'm working towards, on my website as well, there's a page for a community offering, which I am hoping to launch in the next few months sometime. So there's a wait list there, but that would be like a weekly Kundalini yoga practice and a monthly circle call for women in leadership who are wanting to operate from this space of devotion and embodied power.
Oh, I'm really excited about that. So you can head to the website and you can put your name down in the wait list. I'm excited to see how this opportunity that you're opening up, a community, will grow, and how you grow with it too, and offering more of your gifts. I was going to ask, I just can't help it, but would you sing a little?
Oh my God, I was like, you're not going to ask me to sing,
No,
are you?
I'm not going to do that. Of course I'm going to ask. I'm going to, yeah.
Oh,
To use your voice and to encourage anyone else who's listening on the fence about, should I even open up my mouth about anything? It's an
Okay.
invitation. It's an
Okay,
invitation.
I can
to
sing
you.
a little line. This is the final mantra, because in the practice that I taught this morning, we do an hour of mantra. And I play the harmonium, so I'm not like fully a cappella and exposed like I am here, but that's fine. But the last song that's taught in the Kundalini tradition is called Long Time Sun, and it's like a blessing song. So I can sing that if you like.
Love.
Okay, this is I was not expecting this. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you.
Needed.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mhm. Thank goodness you started using your voice. Now, how many people you'll heal with this voice of yours, Maddie, in practice and then however else your artistry brings you.
Thank you, Chrystal.
Yeah, it's such a delight to be with you, and I'm so grateful. And as we draw closer to the close of our marathon of goodness here today, which we're making records just for people who are curious. This has been the longest podcast yet, and it's actually been really beautiful for me, Maddie. I wanted to share that it felt really conversational and really grounded, and really we were in flow. And there's something about when women come together
Mm.
in these safe places that is not only nourishing and nurturing, it's exciting, and it helps us drop into a different space as well. The stories that are unraveling and linking and growing, and hearing about the new things you're offering and the things you've come through, and we've just been on this massive journey,
Yeah.
and it's still unfolding, and that's the beauty of it too. It's not done. If you're tuning in, you can head over to MadeleineEliza.com. Is this the best place to find you and your work, or where can people find you and your work?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Chrystal, for your beautiful words. And it's been such a joy to be here with you today. I'm so grateful. And yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you've just said about when women come together and we have the space to unfold these stories and go on these journeys together. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh gosh.
I
And I'm like, my
can't
eyes
believe
are
you
red.
let us
If you're not
sing.
tuning into YouTube, it's probably a good thing because my eyes are really red.
No, not at all.
I have not been smoking anything. I've just actually been inhaling the goodness of the song.
Oh, um,
Um,
yeah, I think my website is probably the best place, and
awesome.
there's links. I'm on Instagram at Madeleine.Eliza, and I'm on YouTube,
And
Madeleine Eliza.
can you
Yeah.
spell out Madeline? Because it's
Oh
a
yeah.
little like there's several spellings of Madeline. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Madeline. And then Eliza is Eliza.
Awesome. And you've also come back to your original name. I just want to just note that and say that if you're tuning in, Maddie might have been under a different name. And I love that you've come back to reclaim your name.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. It's I actually I was Madeleine Eliza Clegg was my maiden name, and then I got married and took my husband's surname. And then when we got divorced, I didn't want to go back because I'd been married for like 10 years and it felt like stepping back into an old identity. So I just dropped the surname completely. That's the story of my name.
Wow. And is that legally too? You just cut it
Yeah.
off? Yeah.
Yeah. It's gone. Which,
Amazing.
yeah.
Now I wish I did that. I went back to my maiden name.
Well, it's a beautiful name though, Dawn.
Yeah, Chrystal Dawn is my two front names. My first name, but Jameson is my
Or
surname.
Jameson. Yeah.
But I've been in two minds about. I love
You
that you just
often
said.
go by Chrystal Dawn though, don't
Yeah,
you?
Chrystal Dawn. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's my full. It's it's actually my full name to carry the light of Christ into the new dawn. Was
Wow.
my parents. That's the name was for them.
Wow.
So yeah, Christ light.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is a beautiful name.
Mm.
Um, And so I do like to use it together because I didn't know for a long time that it was Chrystal Dawn. It was always
Mm.
Crystal and then Dawn, but it's Chrystal
Mm.
Dawn together. Mm. A different
Very
line.
fitting for you, light that you are.
Yeah, thank you. And is there anything that you would like to? You've been so incredibly generous, but is there anything you'd like to leave our listeners with today? Oh, one more thing that you have shared about this, but I want to bring it into this just because is there something right now that's really bringing you a lot of joy in your life? Like what's bringing you the most joy?
I think the discipline, so this is this discipline and devotion thing, right? Where I've finished my Kundalini yoga training. And I share this from a burnout perspective too. I finished my training and I was deep in client work and I had this sense of agitation. I felt quite stressed actually, like overwhelm. And then I met Premila and committed to this temple, to holding space in this temple capacity and playing the music. And I've had to learn 7 songs, which I haven't stepped fully into this space. Like I've kind of danced around the edges of it, of holding that space and holding that music as well. And ever since I've had that commitment locked, and which is coming from a place of devotion, like I need to do this. It's not about monetary reward. It's not like a super smart financial move to go, I'm going to put all my time into this like creative spiritual practice that may or may not pay off. But it's that inner knowing again of like, I need to go in this direction.
Yeah.
And it's a step in a path of devotion. And with that comes this discipline of like, okay, I'm going to commit to mid-August because I know that's going to give me enough time to practice this music and to learn all the songs and to hold that masculine frame for myself, move through the embarrassment of my neighbors hearing my extremely loud harmonium. I think it must be driving my neighbor here. And then I've got a microphone so I can hear myself sing over the top. Like, this poor guy must just be so over me. But it's that like holding that boundary, like, no, this is important to me and I'm going to be okay with someone else. Like it's just a made up story in my mind that he's so annoyed. He might not even care. I don't know. But yeah, that discipline and devotion. And as soon as I committed to that and stepped onto that path, all the anxiety, all the overwhelm just gone. And I just it's been such a revelation for me of like, sometimes the stress and the churn that we feel is just a lack of alignment. And I haven't changed. It's actually adding something in. I haven't removed anything else. I've just added in something that feels like this is the direction I need to be going in. And I feel peace in myself because of that. So, and it's all about the voice and the music and it's amazing actually to be here with you today because it was just this morning that I sang and held this space for mantra for the first time. So this is a big day for voice for me. But yeah, I'd say that's what's really bringing me alive right now.
Massive day for voice, hours of voice, but dedicating to your practice of being who you are and using your voice and coming through this space with a voice. Thank you so much for following your courage and your wanderings and your inner yearnings, getting curious and breaking down some of the walls and dredging the river so that we can hear your voice. I love this saying that if only the brightest songbirds sung in the forest would be a very quiet place, and you are a songbird, but for all of us listening and tuning in, that all of our voices are important. We need everyone's voice. We need everyone online right now. We need not online on the internet, that too, but we need all of women's voices in the world. And this project, this experiment, Her Brave Story podcast, is really about celebrating women's stories because women's stories matter. We're not going to go silent on our lives. We're not going to go silent in our communities. We're not going to go silent in the world. And there are places that women have gone silent or been silenced, and we just really lean into these spaces with so much compassion and love too, knowing that we have a choice right now in the places that we're in. If you're listening to this right now, this is a little tiny call to action. Lean into the voice. We need you. We need all of you to come on board. We're all part of the same song.
Yes.
Or we just sing little different parts of it.
It's so beautiful, Chrystal.
I feel it so powerfully right now. It's like some of the medicine that you're bringing in. This is such an important reason to share Her Brave story and Maddie's story with people. And it's super easy to do. You just click share, or you write a review, or you subscribe. Those things are actually really easy ways to be a part of amplifying the voices of women rising and to celebrate one another as we grow and become too in these spaces. And something that I'm really taking away from this conversation as well is that this compassion that you have for yourself when you do the work, when you go to the underworld, when you dig down deep in there, that compassion is integral to the ongoing work. That you can't continue your great work in the way, you can't continue finding out more about yourself or even being magnetic if you can't even bring compassion to who you are and where you are in the moment. So thank you so much for that gift and taking bold action in your life and sharing your song too, because it's not easy to be put on the spot. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, especially when you're used to accompaniment of an instrument, but you sounded really beautiful and I'm really excited for more
Thank
songs
you.
and to come along to your Kundalini practice too, so I can learn some of these practices in the real from you. And you can find Madeleine Eliza podcast.com, and you can head to herbravestorypodcast.com for all the show notes and for the links to some of the things that Maddie has talked about with us today, as well as the link to Her Brave Circle, which you can come and join anytime. You're always welcome. There's no prerequisites. And with this, we say thank you to everyone who has tuned in today. You have shared your most precious, valuable commodity, which is your time and your presence and your energy. And I believe that these stories are going to bring you closer to your own soul. And with Maddie's words, your own soul-led life, that you will embody your own life and do great things and grow your own greatness. Maddie, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just a huge thank you for having me. And one quick, I had full body chills before when you were speaking about how we need all women to come online and to use your voice. And as you said, in some places around the world, women's voices have been taken from them. But I'm going to take a punt that if you're watching or listening to this podcast, you're lucky enough to be in a place where you can use your voice and you can wield your own personal power. And sometimes the only thing stopping you from using your voice is the suppression that you've created inside yourself. Speaking from someone who's been on a journey of unshackling those layers. So just an invitation, if you feel that it's hard to use your voice or you feel blocked in using your voice, a gentle invitation to look at what possible blocks there might be within you.
Oh, such a powerful. I really appreciate you sharing that too, because one of the things I was going to say, your last words, and then I got caught up in all this emotion. And that was so powerful, and what a call to action as well. As we move to the close of this, I want to say, yes, just thank you, thank you, thank you. Take forward these amazing lessons, encourage from Maddie, grow your greatness, and I will be here next time you hit play with a smile if you're on YouTube, and your dose of Her Brave Story, because women's stories matter. Until next time, remember this, that you are worth it. And thrive on, brave souls.
Thanks, Chrystal.
Thank you.